What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson, coming at you with another Inside Pitt practice report. It's a big day on the South Side. We're transitioning over to a little bit of football after a lot of basketball heavy months, I guess I would say. We're checking in with the Panthers as they kind of wrap up their offseason of recruiting. They introduced themselves to, or they introduced us, the local media, to four of their many. I believe they added. Let's do a quick count here. I'm looking at their list of transfers. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, nine transfers. We met four of them today, and they were all along the offensive and defensive line. Three defensive linemen, one offensive lineman. We heard from Nick James, Nate Matlack, and David Ojiegbe. Uh, just three defensive linemen. Those are your three defensive linemen right there. And then Lydnon Cooper from NC State is your one offensive lineman. So kind of got to gather some first impressions of those guys. Obviously all hitting on positions of need. I mean, this is a Pitt team that lost a lot in the front seven. You think about losing not just Bengali Kamara, Shane Simon to the Kamara to the transfer portal, Shane Simon to the NFL draft. But you think about losing DeAndre Jules and Tyler Bentley, David Green, those guys up the middle, a bunch of defensive linemen, a couple others that I'm sure I'm forgetting from the 2022 team and the 2023 squad. Defensive line had been a real strength of this team for a long time, obviously. It was something Pat Narduzzi and Charlie Partridge emphasized. I mean, it's a team that has really built a lot of their success, especially on the defensive side of the ball and being able to own and dominate things up front. And they lost so much of a really strong core this year, and they needed to replace it. So, guess what? Charlie Partridge, who is one of, if not the best, not just pure football coaches on this team, but one of the best recruiters as well. He really went to work, and you hear from a lot of these players when they talk about the transfer portal and kind of all the noise you get from being recruited in the transfer portal. Charlie Partridge stuck out, not just because he has a reputation that precedes him, but also because they feel a personal connection to a guy like this. Even you think about a guy like Nate Matlack, who told us that he didn't really know anything about Partridge or Pitt football at all. He comes from Kansas, grew up a Kansas State fan, played, I believe, his first 4 seasons of college ball. He's got 1 year of eligibility left at Kansas State, and he didn't really know anything about Pitt football. But as soon as he started to hit the transfer portal, as soon as coaches started to pursue him, they heard that he was visiting Pitt, being recruited by Pitt and Partridge as well. And they all immediately said, according to him, that Partridge is a great guy, that he's a great coach as well, and that if he did go to Pitt, he would be learning from one of the best. And Matlack took that to heart, and then he kind of felt, especially the personal connection when he met with Partridge here in Pittsburgh. I mean, there's obviously an NFL track record that both Nick James and Ojiegbe talked about. That is clear, and that they don't really need to meet with Partridge in person to see. They can see guys like Kalijah Cansey in the league. They can see guys like Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver. They see dudes like Desmond Alexander and Habakkuk Baldonado get their opportunities to get a shot at the NFL, try to make a roster, get invited to training camps, and they want that for themselves. Just kind of the shot to get developed, to make the NFL. And when you think about transfers as well, I mean, I believe James and Ogiegbe were they're younger guys. I believe they have multiple years of eligibility left, but they were 4-star recruits coming out of high school. So they are really looking at the development side of it. But Matlack is as well. Matlack feels the urgency a bunch to kind of reach that next level of um, production and to get some good stuff on film because he only has 1 year of eligibility left. He really wants to make the NFL, and he feels like this is one of, if not, this is the best place to do it. To learn from a guy that James called the greatest, one of the greatest defensive line coaches in the country. And they're just hoping that they can all kind of maximize their potential under him. It's really striking how often each of these guys talked about Charlie Partridge in this initial press conference that we got to hear from them today, and we got to ask them a few questions. It was very rare that you asked them a question and they didn't mention the kind of impact that Partridge had on their recruitment and just the really strong first impression that he gave when each of these guys arrived and were being recruited. it's hard to underrate what Partridge has done for this program from a perception standpoint. The relationships that he has built with coaches around the country, the reputation that he has, it carries over and it carries over even into circles that he's not directly a part of. I mean, Ojiegbe, he got recruited by Partridge out of high school, so there was a personal connection there that Partridge maintained. The same goes for Nick James, who was recruited coming out of high school. He knew of Partridge already, but I think Matlack, a guy who just kind of came out of nowhere and wasn't kind of in even the kind of Florida circle that you mostly expect Partridge to really recruit in heavily and participate in. Um, he learned about Partridge through his recruiting in the transfer portal. He had other head coaches, he said, telling him about how great Partridge is and just how much they respected what he has been able to bring. I don't think it's any surprise that Charlie Partridge is the most well respected, if not, one of the most well respected coaches on this staff. But I mean, it's just incredible the kind of gravity that he has in the football recruiting world. And you think about some of the reports that came out earlier this winter, and in earlier in the fall a little bit about, perhaps Partridge was thinking about other jobs, other places were trying to lure him away, and the Panthers were able to retain him. He seems happy where he's at for now, and you just think about how big that is for Pitt, and you look at the bigger picture and you think about where Pitt would be without a guy like Partridge on staff for as long and spending as much time on staff as he had. That's the thing, the continuity and just being able to keep him in the same place. He has really built a great reputation for himself. He's built a great reputation for the program and for that defensive line unit. And in a year where the Panthers desperately needed to reload that defensive line, Partridge has done some really good work, in my opinion, at least getting some talented guys in. We'll see how that turns out on the field. I mean, obviously, we saw last year transfers aren't always guarantees, but that's on the offensive side of the ball. And I guess if there's anyone on this coaching staff that you trust above all else to take a transfer, take a player at all who has some talent and turn them into something productive, I think it's Charlie Partridge. So I think that's encouraging. That's an encouraging thing for Pitt fans to see and to hear, and it just speaks to the impact that Charlie Partridge has on this program. I want to talk on our one other transfer player that we spoke with, Lydnon Cooper, offensive lineman, formerly of NC State. He came to Pittsburgh, just kind of looking for a better opportunity, and it seems to think that he has one here. This guy is versatile, played a lot on the interior, where there seems to be a bigger opening. He was a center, but it seems like he's going to figure to play a little bit more guard with Terrence Moore really locking down that center spot. He's played, all over the line and stuff, but he says he feels comfortable everywhere. But with, BJ Williams, a little bit of a question mark as a young guy, talented, but a little bit of a question mark. Same with Ryan Jacoby. What is he after his knee injury? When he's coming back, he figures to be perhaps a projected starter. But, I think Cooper does have a chance to kind of fit in and compete for a starting job, if not be a real consistent reserve rotating through there. And I think Cooper gives them some good insurance. If not, I mean, the past couple of years, the offensive line has been a real meat grinder for the Panthers. They've suffered a ton of injuries there. Last year, in particular, they had a few in 2022, but it was especially pronounced in 2023. And you could tell that the Panthers were really going heavily after experienced offensive linemen, guys that they could plug and play immediately. I think they have a good group in place. I think they have, five guys returning that you'd be comfortable with starting in week one and beyond. But I think Cooper has some upside. He could be a potential upgrade maybe if BJ Williams hits a sophomore slump or regresses in any way. But he's a fascinating guy. Seems enthusiastic. Hasn't really gotten a chance to meet with new offensive line coach Jeremy Daravow, excuse me. Darvo was hired about a month after Cooper committed. And I know Cooper had a good relationship with Dave Borbley, who was recently dismissed from his post last month, or earlier this month, excuse me. So it's an interesting dynamic going on. Cooper's got a lot to learn about his new position coach and his new home when Darvo returns from recruiting on the road over the next few weeks. So we'll see how that goes. We'll get to talk to some more guys, presumably over the next few weeks as we ramp up to spring ball. So these are just first impressions, and we're all looking forward to spring ball to see what these guys actually have on the field. But with that, I'm heading out of here. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another Inside Pitt practice report. My name is Stephen Thompson, signing off from the South Side, and I'll make sure that you subscribe this video, or like this video, excuse me. Subscribe to us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@InsideThePanthers, and find all reporting at InsideThePanthers.com. Got plenty of basketball content coming up as that team heats up, and then football as spring ball gets going here in Pittsburgh. With that, I'm signing off, and I'll see you all